I think a little bit of both. That is part of our culture, our way of life. We're kind of brought up to think that. But I think it does have sort of a biological instinct as well, just because of the whole women seeking the men with the better genes and the men, fighting each other for the ladies' attention. Who gets to be the one to pass on their genes? I think it's a more of a primitive instinct that we just we keep going with.
Right. So are you under the philosophy that our friend Gary subscribes with, just these basic instincts? We just fancied up a little bit, but pretty much it's just his primitive drives that we're echoing, and with a little bit more fanciness and technology on top of.
Yes, sort of. I'm just not as pessimistic about it as he is.
Yeah. Okay.
This makes me think of, I mean, I'm no expert in anthropology and human prehistory, but from what I've read, I think the indigenous tribal peoples, the nomadic peoples that were more goddess worshiper oriented towards the feminine more than our modern cultures are, the males didn't even know that it was their the act of intercourse actually is what produced the pregnancy. So we males hadn't made that connection yet between having sex and then the baby being created. I mean, some tribes thought the moon was impregnating the women, and so it was more like a very communal sort of. I mean, sex was shared, and there wasn't this sense of males owning women and wanting it to be just one male and one woman as a couple. It was far more community oriented. So it makes me think that maybe we give these evolutionary reasons nowadays, but really that may not explain it if in fact we didn't even know originally that it was, that we had this desire to pass our genes along, So maybe there's something else going on than just this selfish genetic urge to procreate.
Well, obviously we're more than just the slaves to our urges, but yeah, I think in those sort of societies where everything is shared, it's not just pairing off for life. You're not going to have as many people isolated that would kind of spawn these social illnesses that we have now.
Yeah, interesting. Talking about societies that are more social and sharing, what do you think about the concept of polygamy, polyamory?
Polyamory is...
Polyamory, yeah. Are you on the fence about that, or are you on board with
that? No, I'm not on the fence at all. I'm all for it.
Okay, that was easy.
That seems to be I mean, I mean, it's not really widespread yet, but a lot of sort of progressive cultures are leaning more in that direction. And it is sort of just harkening back to where we began, I think. But does that make relationships any less complicated, and would polyamory really get rid of these sort of social disorders and malfunctions? And I mean, is that really the solution, you think, or would we be just as would relationships be just as confusing and difficult as they often are now?
No, I don't think it's going to solve those kinds of problems, because we're still pretty exclusive with who we choose to associate with and who we choose to have relationships with. But the whole thing with polyamory and polygamy, well, polygamy is a separate issue because it deals with marriage, but right. Polyamory, the whole thing with polyamory is that I just don't believe that people are as monogamous as they claim to be, because there's most people get cheated on, or most people cheat at least once in their life. And I think if they're just honest with themselves, they realize that they may not be able to commit sexually to just one person, even if they love them. Yeah. Now, polygamy, on the other hand, I just don't think it's right for any government to tell people who they can and cannot marry. And if they want to marry more than one person, I think they should be able to. That's my whole deal with that.
Yeah. What does that do with like the legal stuff? I mean, if you're married to a lot of people, like, does it come down to who gets what? Is that all it is? Just a lot of red tape and bureaucracy? Is that why it's kind of we're putting it off as a society?
Well, there's also this issue of a lot of polygamists will marry very young girls who aren't exactly ready to make that sort of decision.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah.
Yeah, religious communal cults like in Utah,
Yeah.
who are really just taking advantage of young, ignorant people who've never known any other kind of life. Obviously, I'm not going to support that. I mean, any kind of marriage between people who are, first of all, adults and who are able to make well-informed decisions.
Bringing it back to a little bit of the cyber stalking, have you had any interesting stories from friends, other YouTube friends that have been as cyber stalked as well, maybe in a different way, but are there any interesting and like, well, that's strange, or that's really crazy, that needs to be watched? Have your friends told you stories about their dealings with cyber stalkers, if they had
actually, oh my God, it's Chris told me about another female. I don't remember her name right at the moment, but she was being bothered by this guy who knew where she lived. In fact, he obtained her address, because she did give out her real name, and actually showed up at her door.
Whoa.
And she was forced to call the police, and then she had another person stalking her, who was threatening her with violence, and she did something I think was very, very stupid. She actually made a video daring this guy to meet her at a restaurant, and fortunately he did not show up, but I would never ever do something like that.
Was she trying to set him up with have a private detective or something, or was she just going by herself like John Rambo? Or
yeah, she even said that she wasn't going to call the police, that she was not going to have police there, and I thought, you're insane, this person could kill you.
Yeah, it's a bit scary.
Gotta love the internet for bringing people together, huh?
Man. It seems to be like one of those double-edged swords. It can bring a lot of positive people, well, not just positive, but like-minded. It brings like-minded people, like you said, and that could be good or bad, couldn't it?
Well, as much as I've found people who I can relate to, I've also unfortunately attracted a lot of lunatics, and what can you do about that?
Lunatics, are they because they don't like your worldview, they don't like how you see things, and like they're going to say, I know it's right, and this girl Peach obviously doesn't, I'm going to correct her ways. Is that what they're doing, or what? How are they?
Well, if they're just talking, I don't really care, but when they're when they're trying to insert themselves into your life, you know, like they're part of your reality or your daily life, I think they are the most dangerous. If they're not content with just being somebody who might subscribe to your channel or just disagrees with you.
Right. So there's a very blurry boundary, it seems, for some people between, you know, watching a lot of your videos on the internet and being your friend in real life. It's and you know, sometimes we want to blur that boundary. Like, you know, I met John. I've met a lot of really good friends on the internet, but at the same time, there are those who, you know, I'm a little more concerned about because it just doesn't seem quite as kosher. And I'm not sure.
That's right.
I'm not sure what it is that tips me off one way or the other, but
we, as our channels and this channel is growing, we are starting to get more interactions beyond the cyber network, like more real life mail, like physical mail, and a gift here and now or then, like keep up the good work, or you know. So that's cool. But then there's like invites to come hang out at the beach with me alone, man. You know, and it's not like a hot girl or anything. It's like you know, someone that, or so. What do you do with all that? You know.
You just have to use your best judgment. I mean, I understand because I've gotten real life invites as well that I've just, you know, kind of said no thank you. But there's a difference between meeting up with someone that maybe you've only interacted with casually and actually meeting somebody who you're interacting with every day. For instance, like when I met Richard in real life, I mean, that was after what, 6-7 months of talking online every single day almost. So it's not like he was a stranger to me.
Right. Yeah, I guess anybody that's got at least like 1 or 2 or 3 videos up on YouTube so that you can see somewhat who they are, I feel a lot safer, you know, exchanging thoughts and even potentially meeting up with them. But a lot of people don't have any, they're not putting themselves out there on the internet, and so it seems as though they're trying to hide something, and so I get a little more